You're listening to Precinct 444, a podcast network from the National Law Enforcement Museum.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. It's great to see so many people here. My name is Thomas Canavan. I am the Executive Director of the National Law Enforcement Museum and the Chief Operating Officer for the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. If you're unfamiliar with our organization, our mission is to honor the fallen, tell the story of American law enforcement, and make it safer for those who serve. So today, we are going to hear some incredible stories and another important part of our mission, making it safer for those who serve. Our recruiting and retention efforts here at the museum is how we as an organization in part are supporting those safety efforts. When departments are not staffed optimally, that puts officers at risk. It causes stress, and it's important for us as an organization and as a community to support law enforcement. There are resources that we all have. For us here, it's the museum. And so we opened the museum. We invited agencies and departments from across the country to join us. For the visitors here who are interested in careers in law enforcement, they are here to meet you and talk with you. So while you're here throughout the day, I encourage you to get to know them, ask questions about their department, ask questions about them, who they are, how they got into this career and what their experience has been so far. I don't want to take up a lot of time. We have an incredible agenda. We have wonderful speakers here with us today. Before I go, I just want to give a very special thanks to Noble. Noble has been an incredible partner, not just for the museum, but the Memorial Fund as a whole. Dwayne has served on our board for years. Anytime I call Dwayne, he picks up the phone and we chop it up and come up with solutions for what it is we need to happen. And a partner like that is incredibly valuable. And I'm just very grateful for all of your support. Dwayne, President Hall, Melissa, I don't know if she's in the room, but she worked incredibly hard to bring all of our participants and our speakers here today, and she did a wonderful job. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you all very much for being here today. And it is my honor and privilege to welcome Martin Bartness from the Police Executive Research Forum to be with us here today. Here we are, Martin. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the Police Executive Research Forum and Executive Director Chuck Wexler, thank you for the opportunity to join in celebrating Noble's 50 years of leadership and advocacy in law enforcement. Chuck would like to be here with you himself. Unfortunately, he is in Nashville today with Chief John Drake. Chief Drake is the chair of the PERF Board of Directors, and in April, PERF is having its annual meeting, and guess what we're celebrating? Our 50th year. That's right. How about that coincidence, right? So Noble and PERF were both founded 50 years ago in 1976 under similar circumstances and with shared objectives. Here's what both organizations say about their founding. Noble was founded through an unprecedented event in which 60 top-ranking Black law enforcement executives representing 24 states and 50 major cities gathered in Washington, D.C., where they exchanged views about the critically high rate of crime in Black urban communities and the socioeconomic conditions that lead to crime and violence. They also raised questions about relevant issues, such as fairness in the administration of justice, police community relations, the hiring and promotion of Black officers, and the unique problems of the Black police executive. PERF, meanwhile, was established by a group of forward-thinking police chiefs seeking to improve policing through research, evidence-based practices, and public debate. It serves as a national organization for law enforcement executives, focusing on critical issues like reducing force and fostering community policing. Pretty similar, right? But more importantly, their shared origins quickly developed into a partnership committed to action. In 1979, just 3 years after their founding, Noble and PERF joined 2 other national law enforcement organizations to form CALEA, the Commission for the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. And now, half a century later, we continue to share a vision of what professional law enforcement should look like: diverse, community-focused, research-driven, and justice-oriented. This shared vision is evident in PERF's summer internship program. This is for you now, students. The summer internship program for students that involved historically Black colleges and universities exclusively. The program was 10 weeks long. Students earned up to $10,000, working Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week with paid holidays. The first summer internship program in 2022 had just 8 internships. We wanted to get it right. We wanted to do a pilot and figure it out. It was students from Morgan State University and Coppin State University in Baltimore, and they were all placed in assignments in the Baltimore Police Department. And based on what we learned from that experience, we expanded the program nationally the next year in 2023 to 30 interns, 29 police agencies in 15 states, and 13 HBCUs in 10 states. As a project manager, it was one of the most fulfilling and invigorating experiences of my professional career. When I joined PERF in 2022, I had just retired from the Baltimore Police Department after 25 years, and I was tired. But spending time with the interns renewed my enthusiasm for policing and filled me with tremendous optimism for our nation's future. I wondered how anyone could spend time with these bright and energetic students and come away feeling any differently. Here's what a few of the students had to say about their internship experiences. Yasmin Bryant, a Morgan State University student, said simply, "I will remember this internship for the rest of my life." Abere Nanegwo, I hope she'd be proud with my pronunciation there. She had just graduated with a degree in nursing from Lincoln University in Pennsylvania. And she told a USA Today reporter that, quote, she came in there wanting to just kind of make some money and leave. But she left wondering, how can I do this for the rest of my life? A nurse, wondering how she could stay in policing. Sam Mansufube, a Coppin State University, who spent his summer with the Baltimore County Police Department, kind of the inferior stepsister of the Baltimore Police Department. He came to the internship program having had negative interactions with police. This internship changed my perception, he said. I care for all the officers at the department. I know they're working hard, and I know that they're risking their lives. Jayla Hall from Alabama A&M University traveled to Minnesota for her summer internship and worked with the Minneapolis Police Department. She said, I don't feel like I truly valued or respected police like I do now. Seeing behind the scenes and how they interact with the community has really shown me a different image than what I had. And Diana Newcomb, a Howard University student who spent her summer with the Elgin Police Department just outside of Chicago, said, my attitude has changed. Originally, I thought most officers did not welcome change or reform or that they would all be smug. But that wasn't true. A lot of them love serving their community and are willing to make any changes to make sure that they're doing their jobs in the most effective way. Since the conclusion of the internship program, I've written multiple letters of recommendation for the interns, which has really been a labor of love. And as an organization, PERF follows their academic and professional successes, from new internships to admissions to PhD programs, to positions as crisis co-responders, and jobs with law enforcement agencies as both police officers and professional staff. The arc of history bends toward justice, Dr. King taught us. and Perf is proud to walk hand in hand with Noble for another 50 years, in the shared understanding that equality and justice are never guaranteed, but achieved only through persistent, righteous, and collective action. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dwayne Crawford. I got a couple of hats today, but I'll start with my Noble hat first, and I'll discuss the museum here in a second. I'm an executive director for a National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, Noble. As you all may or may not know, but you probably know this already, Reverend Jesse Jackson passed away most recently on I heard, I guess, early Monday morning, yesterday morning. And I do want to recognize his life because at our 40th anniversary, 10 years ago, at Noble's 4th anniversary here in Washington, D.C., Reverend Jackson came and spoke to our organization. I had the honor to know him personally. I had a chance to serve under him on a number of different projects. But the biggest thing I'll say about his life is he really sincerely believed in everyone's ability to have a role in this world, a role in this country, and a role in your community. And I would say to you young people, if you know anything about his background, he was born under some really challenging experiences. Basically, he was born to an unwed mother, and back in that period of time, it's challenging now, but back then it was a huge stigma with that. So he kind of came in this world in a very challenging environment, but rose well above that. And there are two things you probably may have heard, but these were his most famous words he would say. One, everybody is somebody. And he would say this to young people, old people, but he believed it, that everybody is somebody. And you young people out there, definitely are challenging things in this world. But I'm gonna tell you something. Everybody is somebody, and your dreams and aspirations are there for the taking. Other party would say was keep hope alive. And he said in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, but he believed that. And I know there's a lot of things going on in our country and the world right now, but we're all children of God. No matter what your faith is, we're all children of a God. And I do firmly believe that. I also look back at Noble's history. What would make 61 individuals believe they're going to create an organization of the magnitude of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives? 61 of them. 60 men, they know the story, and 1 woman. That all being said, they probably would not imagine we're now over 5,000 members, 60 chapters, we're international, approximately 45% of the major cities in this country and counties are led by Noble members. Now, what I'm gonna do, and I'm probably gonna mess this up a little bit, I'm gonna start off first with, will all past and present board members of Noble please stand and be recognized? Our past and present board members, and recognize them. I want to thank you for your service. Keep standing. Will all members of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives please stand and be recognized? A lot of them here. Yep. Yeah. Now I'm gonna put you on the spot. If you are at a command level, which means a lieutenant or above, raise your hand. Where are? And the reason why I'm doing this, everybody, is you young people, please have seats so they can see. Sit down, please. The reason I ask that question of them is while you're here, young people, please shake their hands and introduce yourselves. These men and women can hire you. They run agencies, primarily in the DMV area, but across the country. Now, one thing I gotta do, I have a predecessor for this here. Dr. Elsie Scott, please stand up. She ran Noble well before I got here. And he's gonna talk a bit later. Now, my other job here is on the museum side. I wanna say to everyone, you are invited to this Memorial Museum. Our organization, Noble, put up some money to get this thing built. We've been on the board for decades now. But please tell your folks, this is your museum. This is your memorial. When you walk out this building, you cross the street, there is a memorial wall of men and women who have given the ultimate sacrifice to be and work in law enforcement, meaning they died. But there's a wall with hundreds and hundreds. How many we got on that wall right now? About over 24,000. Yeah, I don't mess this up. Over 24,000 people have died to protect and serve you, our communities, and our country. And that wall is across the street from this museum. But within this museum is the history of law enforcement, but it's also the history of Noble. Now I'm gonna get off my soapbox. My other job is to introduce my boss. Now, I teased her. Though we want to see all of our members, you're really here to come see her too. We get it. Her name is Chief Renee Hall. She's a former police chief of Dallas, Texas, the Dallas Police Department. She also, though, spent the majority of her career in the Detroit Police Department. But she's a president of all of Noble, both international and here domestically. And before you come up, this woman is passionate about making sure there's equity in administration of justice and everybody has a say in this thing called democracy. So young folks, I'm gonna say this to you again. This woman, you want to shake her hand too. These people that are here can change your entire, have changed my life. And the last thing I'll say about her, she is a bad sister who demands that at the highest levels of our government, that everybody feel included in what we're doing in this thing called democracy. President Renee Hall, come to the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. I'd first like to thank the museum for having us. We truly support and love our partnership, and we appreciate all that you do and all that we all do to ensure that the individuals who paid the ultimate sacrifice are actually remembered. I am a second-generation police officer. My father's name is on that wall, so this is extremely important to me. I just want to say good morning to all of you, to our Noble family, to our law enforcement colleagues, to young leaders, and to all who have joined us today in this sacred and historic space. It is both a blessing and an honor, as well as a responsibility to stand before you as the national president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. And Mr. Crawford has already said that I'm a former police chief in the city of Dallas. But this moment, to open this moment, this milestone, it is a declaration that Noble is still here. Since 1976, we are still here. We gather today not simply to commemorate an anniversary, but to affirm a legacy of Black history, Black excellence, forged in struggle, strengthened by purpose, and defined by an unwavering commitment to justice, accountability, and service. Try hard as they may, but our history will never, ever be erased. Let me say that again. Try hard as they may, our history will never be erased. 50 years, Noble. Let that settle for a moment. 50 years of leadership where none was promised. 50 years of courage when silence would have been easier. 50 years of standing in the tension between community and law enforcement, between history and hope, and between protest and progress. Noble was created in comfort. Noble was not created in comfort. It was created in conviction. In 1976, Black law enforcement executives across this nation came together because they understood something profoundly important, that representation without responsibility is hollow, and authority without integrity is absolutely dangerous. They understood that who we are in uniform matters as much as what we do when we're in uniform. And they believed rightly that Black leaders in law enforcement had both a moral authority and a lived experience to help reshape public safety in America. Today, we honor those founders. We stand on their shoulders, but more importantly, we carry their work forward. As I look out in this room, I see generations represented. I see pioneers and trailblazers like Dr. Elsie Scott. I see chiefs, sheriffs, commanders, and captains, officers, analysts, even our intern, not sure where she went. I see community advocates and educators. I see young people whose questions will shape the next era of policing. And I am reminded of a truth I have learned over more than 2 decades in law enforcement. Progress is not linear. Leadership is not easy, and trust is never inherited. It is earned. I served nearly 20 years in the Detroit Police Department, rising through the ranks to deputy chief. I then had the profound responsibility of serving as chief of police in Dallas during one of the most challenging periods in modern policing, not just for that city, but for our nation as a whole. Moments of national reckoning, moments of grief, moments of anger, moments when the uniform felt heavier than ever before. And what I learned, what many of you may already know, is that leadership in those moments is not about titles or tactics. It's about presence. It's about listening. It's about moral courage. It's about standing in the middle of discomfort and saying, we can do better and we must do better. That is the leadership tradition of Noble. Today's themed, forged in struggle, empowered by strength, defining our future, is not aspirational language. It is lived truth. We have forged in struggle. Struggle against exclusion in our profession, struggle against policies that ignored community harm, struggle against the false narrative that reform and safety are mutually exclusive. Yet we did not fracture. We were empowered by strength, the strength of our values, the strength of our relationships, the strength of our leaders, willingness to change the status quo from the inside. Let me say that again, young people. Change the status quo from the inside, because that matters. And now, at 50 years, we are defining our future, not reaching to it, not fearing it, defining it. This gathering today matters because public safety is at an inflection point. Communities are asking for legitimate questions about accountability, fairness, amongst transparency and accountability. Officers are navigating unprecedented scrutiny, fatigue, and complexity. Technology is evolving faster than policy, and trust, fragile yet essential, hangs in the balance. Noble's role in this moment is not to retreat. It is to lead. We lead by centering constitutional policing. We lead by insisting on professionalism and humanity. We lead by mentoring the next generation. And we lead by partnering authentically with the communities that we serve. That is why today's conversation matters. Coffee and conversation matter because relationships are built in proximity, not in press releases. The legacy panel matters because history informs wisdom, knowledge, and an understanding. And our Bible tells us in all things to get an understanding. The youth perspective matters because the future does not wait for permission. And the community town hall matters because trust cannot be built without your voice. To our young people here, I want you to hear this clearly. Your voice belongs in this space. Your questions are not inconvenient. Your expectations are not unreasonable. You are not just the future of public safety. You are part of its present. We need your insight, your innovation, And yes, your impatience. Push us to do better, to be better, to act better. Because urgency has always been the catalyst of change. And to my law enforcement colleagues, I know the weight you carry. I know the scrutiny. I know the sacrifice. I know the pride, and I know the pain. Noble stands with you, not by excusing misconduct, but by demanding excellence, because accountability is not the enemy of policing. It is the foundation of legitimacy. As we celebrate 50 years, let us be clear about what this legacy demands of us. It demands that we continue to prepare leaders, not just managers. It demands that we confront inequity, not explain it. It demands that we model courage and model the courage we expect from others. And it demands that we never forget who we serve and why we serve. Noble is not just an organization. It is a standard. It is a conscience. It is a promise that public safety and justice are not competing ideals, a promise that leadership rooted in integrity can change systems, and a promise that in the most difficult moments, we will not abandon our responsibility to lead with purpose. 50 years ago, our founders imagined something bold. Today, we honor them with the nostalgia, but not just nostalgia. With action is how we honor them. The work is not finished, the mission is not complete, and the future is still being written. Let it be written that when the moment demanded, Noble stood firm. Let it be written that when trust was fragile, we chose transparency. Let it be written that when the path forward was unclear, we led anyway. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in this mission. Thank you for participating today. I want to leave you with these words because law enforcement is about service. And Dr. Martin Luther King said that service is the rent you pay for the space you occupy. God bless you, and I welcome you to this panel, and I pray that you will leave differently than you came. Thank you.
My name is Marcia Thompson. I am a proud life member of Noble. I was here 50 years ago, but I wasn't part of that 61. I think I don't even want to say how old I was, but I was here. But I was trying to reflect, and I should have called Melissa and asked to check whether or not I joined in 93 or 94. But I started my career out in federal law enforcement here in D.C. in 1990 and went to Quantico in 1992. And I believe in either 93 or 94, Noble had a partnership with NABNA, National Association of Black Narcotic Agents, and it may have been in Detroit. And I can't remember the year, but that was the year where I was running around with my crew, and then I saw all of these folks. And I said, who are they? I want to be a part of that group. And then I joined Noble the next year. So it was either 93 or 94. But I stand here as a life member at this point, a past member of the board and general counsel. And I would say I grew up in this organization. And I am now a chair of a criminal justice department for a university. I'm a civil rights attorney, but my family has always been and will be Noble. So I want to thank the president, Director Crawford, the Noble staff, and the museum for inviting us to have this panel, and all of my wonderful colleagues that are here to talk about the 50 years of our legacy and our future, and some of the things that we have done, some of the trails we have blazed, and some of the policies we've impacted, some of the things that our organization has been involved in. Everyone that's come up here before me has talked about the struggle but also the things that we have strived to do and the accomplishments we have made. So our panelists today will introduce themselves in a moment, but they too have been here a minute. I won't say how long, I'll let them say that. But they will talk about their time here at Noble, and then also what the future of Noble could look like. So with that, and with my brief introduction, I am going to pass it on to, as she gets settled, Dr. Elsie Scott, to give us a few minutes of who she is now and just a little bit about her background so you all know who's on the panel today. Dr. Scott?
I came to Noble in 1986 when I came as a staff person to manage a project. They had gotten a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice looking at police handling of hate crimes. And I had newly minted PhD, and I was doing some research similar to that. And so that's how I ended up at Noble. Never at that time would I have thought that I would still be here and that I would be one of the senior people who's here to try to tell the story of Noble and where we came from. But so you want me to just introduce myself?
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Glover.
I've been a member of Noble for a long, long time, but before I get into that, let me just tell you a little bit about me. I spent 34 years in the FBI. 4 of those years as professional staff, but 30 years as an agent. I'm retired, happily retired, right? Yes, that's right. I am happily retired. And what I am doing now, I am a coach. My niche is career coaching, and I focus on law enforcement. And the space that I'm in right now is a space of gratitude because of Noble. I started with Noble because of this woman right here. Back in 1986, Dr. James Eagland introduced me to Dr. Scott at a conference. The Noble Conference was in DC on Capitol Hill somewhere, because all this starts to come back when you start thinking about history, and introduced me to Dr. Scott, and I immediately became a member of Noble. I refuse to let her go. I have held on to her even when she tried to,
We talked about that, Rhonda.
Yeah. I just hold on. So I have stalked her. I've held on to her. She has fed me. She has given me access, and she has taken me to different levels in my law enforcement career. But I'm just going to hold right there because we have a lot to say here in this panel, because this is an amazing panel. You need to know that. So I'm just going to hold and just turn this over to Jim, so I will be my
Chief Golden.
Thank you, and hello again to everyone. Jim Golden. I am a past president of Noble, 1998-99. Been a member for 40 years. There's something about that year, 1986. We'll have to talk about that later. But I became a member when I achieved the rank of lieutenant in my home city police department in Philadelphia, where I started as a police officer, believe it or not, in 1970. Working my way through the ranks in the police department there, I retired in 1996 as a captain and the executive officer to the police commissioner. Went out to mid-Michigan, the city of Saginaw, and served as police chief there for 4 years. That was followed by a similar position I held in Trenton, New Jersey. I was the first civilian police director to serve that city. And from there, during its rollout phase in 2002, I was recruited and appointed as the first federal security director for TSA at Philadelphia International Airport. I wrapped up my full-time career as the chief safety executive, again in my hometown, Philadelphia, for the school district there, where I served for 5.5 years. Since then, since fully retiring in 2010, I've been serving as a training consultant, mostly in the area of juvenile justice, school safety, and police operations. And I will tell you, as I turn the mic over, that you never get out of this business. As you can tell, here I am today, all these years later, and still active, still engaged, and loving every minute of it. Thank you.
Ms. Stella.
Hello, everyone. I am Ms. Stella Thomas. I didn't have that long whole big story about law enforcement. My actual education is in dentistry. I can make you a set of dentures. I can create you a crown. I can clean your teeth. I was well on a path of dentistry when I met my husband of 46 years. He's sitting right there. We relocated to Maryland. He said, Secret Service is giving a test. You think you want to take it? At this point, I had quit 3 jobs, and he was going crazy. Are you going to keep a job? No, the dentists in this area are not good. I can't stand them. So he said, you want to try? And go? I said, I'll go take the test. I took the test. I passed the test. He said, what you think? I said, looks okay. Then I met Hubert Bell. Hubert Bell said, you got to join Noble. Got to join Noble. I said, okay. So I did that, joined Secret Service Uniform Division, got promoted, made lieutenant. When I got to lieutenant, I was in charge of the tour detail at the White House, so I can tell you everything about it. At least I used to before they tore it down. But at that point, I did that. 9/11 happened, met Arnold Cole. Arnold Cole said, you got to go with me to Baltimore. We got to set up TSA. I said, are you serious? I said, on the way I'm going to leave here, you got to give me 6 figures. He said, I got you. He got me 6 figures. I left there. I went to BWI Airport, served as a supervisor aviation inspector. So yeah, when they mess up at TSA, I can tell you all about that too. So at this point, I've been on Noble's board. I've served on several boards. I'm currently the national treasurer, and I'm continuing in that position. So I do know a little bit about your money. I am happy to be here. You guys look great out there. And it just goes to show you may start down one career path, but you never know where you may end up.
Thank you. So as you can see, we have a festive panel for you today. So we're going to start with kind of our foundation, and you can't start anywhere without knowing where you came from. So Dr. Scott, I'm going to start with you, since I think you've been here with almost the beginning, not 50 years ago on that day, but for a little while. Can you talk about, and I know President Hall spoke a little bit about what was going on, as well as Perf, but can you talk about, from your perspective, what was going on during that time when Noble was started up and when you joined and you became a part of the organization? What was happening?
Okay. I made an error when I said I came to Noble in 86. I became executive director of Noble in 86. I came to Noble in 83 as a researcher, researching hate crimes and the police handling of it. So let me just correct that. When I didn't think about it, so Chief Golden said 86, and I said I was here before him.
That's why I said I thought she was here first, but I just wanted to check.
And so since that time, I left in 91, January 91, to go to New York when Lee Brown recruited me to come and help him out with the New York Police Department. Mayor Dinkins became the first black mayor and appointed Lee Brown. And he named me head of the training division of the New York Police Department. We have to tell that story another day. And then I also served later with Chief Ramsey in DC Police Department, and also with Chief Oliver in Detroit, and done a lot of consulting work for other departments. So what was happening in 1976 when Noble was founded? Noble was founded at a Black Crime Conference that was sponsored by LEAA. You'll have to be somewhat older to know what LEA is. There was an agency within the Justice Department called the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration, LEAA, and it did a lot of support to local law enforcement. And they pulled together a conference along with the Joint Center for Political Studies, as well as the Police Foundation. And they named this conference Black Crime. But that was the term that was commonly used. A lot of young people say, Black crime? Why y'all call it Black crime? If we have a little time, we can talk about that. But the term black crime was commonly used at this time, but later it was dropped because of the negative connotations associated with it. But the conference was focused on urban crime. And they tried to identify all of the ranking black people, executives in police departments throughout the country. And they identified 60 of them, or was it 59? It was 59 of 60 ranking police officials from cities throughout the country. And the person assigned to do this, to pull this conference together, and I think she was really the ideal behind it, was Peggy Triplett. Peggy Triplett was a staffer at LEAA, and she helped to identify, she along with other members of staff, tried to find every black person in a police department in the United States who was above the rank of captain. And really they ended up with a sergeant from Birmingham, Alabama, because he was the highest ranking black there, and he eventually became chief of police, and he's still alive today. So LEA had been collecting data on crime victims that showed that black victims were more likely to be victimized by black perpetrators. Crime was also found to be higher in impoverished areas. The other finding that came out of this conference, or that was related to the papers that were presented at the conference, was there was a need for more black officers, and there was discrimination in promotions in police departments. So the black chiefs who attended that conference, that was the first time most of them had met each other. And so on the breaks, they started talking and say, man, we need to have our own organization. And so they disrupted this conference, this well-planned conference, to start talking about founding an organization. And that's where Noble came from.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go over to, I'm going to skip over you for a second, Rhonda. I'm going to go to Chief Golden there. And Chief Golden, how did Noble establish itself as a recognized thought leader on issues like police accountability and leadership diversity from your perspective?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. I'm going to get there in just a second, but I do want to go back to what Dr. Scott just shared about the founding, because I don't think that should be lost on any of us. These very courageous, and I'm going to come back to that word courage for our young people in a minute, but these very courageous people were convened and they got together and they realized, as Dr. Scott pointed out, that we need to do something beyond the purpose for which we were summoned to DC. And I'm going to answer your question by saying that understand what happened. There was an epiphany, if you will, that day. Mm-hmm. And folks looked around the room, just as we're doing today, and we do when we have our conferences and march through our urban communities, and people say, wow, we never knew this existed. And they summoned up the courage, because understand, in those days, in the mid-'70s, and these were seasoned individuals, so they started their careers back in the 50s and 60s, and we don't have time today, but we can really talk about what it was like to be an African American in law enforcement in those days. But nonetheless, to get to the question, so that started Noble, and then in terms of it becoming a thought leader in law enforcement across the country, I'll give you just a couple of quick examples of what we were involved in as an organization. We supported national legislation around the issue of bias-based policing, traffic stops, disproportionate minority contact between law enforcement and the community. And so when these kinds of legislative acts were crafted and advocated, Noble was right there. In fact, Noble would be asked, in fact, to testify oftentimes before Congress around these kinds of issues. Racial profiling, that was big on my watch in the late 90s. Racial profiling was a huge challenge, and I'm being kind today, in terms of the African American community, law enforcement, and those kinds of things. But Noble was at the forefront of advocating around these issues. So we were a national voice in supporting these efforts. We served on the United States Department of Justice committees and panels around community policing, community engagement. So those are just a couple of examples to answer your question about how Noble became a thought leader generally across law enforcement in this country. We'll talk a little bit later about the COPS Consortium and the modern day CRITAC initiative and all of those kinds of things. You heard from our executive director about the partnership that we play here at the museum. And so Noble has always been, as I said, at the forefront of these issues. And I suppose for the next 50 years, we'll continue to do that.
Thank you. Dr. Glover, Reese, let me ask you, you talked about how you met and stalked Dr. Elsie. And I know I've been stalked myself at this point. I guess I've entered in the ranks of OG. I'm glad I'm here to be on this legacy panel. Somebody said, "Oh, you've now become an OG if you get to moderate the legacy panel." I said, "Oh, that's what that meant." Okay, so I'm glad to be here with the OGs and with your journey coming up through Noble. What does that feel like to be part of the Noble family and to really come up in this organization?
Well, it feels incredible. So when I started as a young FBI agent, I was hungry. I was incredibly hungry. And being a part of Noble allowed me to connect with some incredible people. Not just Dr. Scott. I hung on to a lot of people. Now, even though I was in federal law enforcement, there was considerable value in connecting with state and local and county partners. I had some of my best cases in the FBI in partnership with other law enforcement agencies. Incredible success. And a lot of that was being a member of Noble. My first law enforcement office was in New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey. And having those cases and being a Black female in the FBI was on occasion quite tough. But I was able to lean on my Noble members for support and just to hold on and to learn. And I learned so much from being connected to Noble, and I'm still learning as a member of Noble. So I started in the 86, and I continued just holding on to Noble. I continued to connect. And so for the young people here, I hope you're paying attention, because it's important for you to know that, like Mr. Crawford mentioned, connect, have the conversation. Don't be shy about it. Do not be shy about it. Connect with those who are here. They're here to help you, because when you talk about service, that's what law enforcement is. Law enforcement is service. We're here to serve, not just in law enforcement, but just to serve overall. So it's important that you get that and take advantage of it. Because of my connection to Noble, doors have opened. I gained access. It started with Dr. Scott. I gained access to different people throughout the country that helped me in my law enforcement journey. I started as a street agent, and I continued to move up in the ranks within the FBI. And I attribute that to Noble because of the access, because of the connection, because of the mentoring, because of taking advantage of those in the organization. I sat at the feet of greatness and I paid attention. I just, you sitting looking at a movie and you got this big old container of popcorn. That was me. I sat and I was just paying attention, listening to the challenges that people were having in law enforcement and learning how to navigate those challenges. And so I was able to step back, learn, and avert danger in my law enforcement career because I paid attention to my noble brothers and sisters.
And I just want to reflect on something Chief Golden said when he said, we've been involved in policy and procedure, and we've been here and we've been there. And I know, as Rhonda just alluded to, I'm sitting at home with the popcorn, and I'm sitting there, and my husband will go, "Ain't that one of your friends?" We're watching CNN. "Ain't that one of your friends? Ain't that one of your friends?" And I go, "Yes, honey, stop saying it." But that's all. That's noble. And so when we say we're at the forefront, we're not just at the forefront of decision making and policies. We're on every channel. You can turn any of them when somebody from Noble is speaking. Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's because we're in a bad space. But Noble is at the table, and we've been at the table, as Chief Golden said, making changes in policy, and they do call. And so I just wanted to say that, I may not have been sitting there watching at the conference. Well, I do that too. But definitely still over the last 20 years, I've watched our Noble members show up on TV talking about the issues that are impacting us. So, Ms. Stella, I want to ask you, we talk about our history, and I even looking at our panel here, our growth, our evolution. I think Perf representative mentioned 60 men and 1 woman. So as we've changed as an organization internally, how have you seen the rise of women and how they play a role in Noble and kind of how that changed the face of our organization?
As we look at Noble today, and I think we have had 8 female national presidents.
8.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of came from all types of different backgrounds, and that's the part that's interesting. Our very first national president was Sheriff Jackie Barrett, a sheriff. Our first federal national president was Ida Gillis. So she came from the feds. And then we just continue. But right now we're on number 8 with our gracious Madam President, Renee Hall. But we intend to keep that going. But that does not mean that Noble women were not present all along in Noble, pushing and pulling and tugging. So if you go back and look at some of the past boards, a lot of times we forget about the boards. We remember the presidents, but forget about the boards. But on many of those boards were the women of Noble, pushing and making the changes. We still refer to ourselves sometimes as a cleanup crew. Because no matter how well they're doing, we get that side eye, we like, you need to do this. So, but women have excelled and they continue to. And it's very important because in law enforcement, as I look about this room, and I think we even made that comment earlier when we looked at the crowd, it's like, where are the gentlemen? And the coordinator with the class, I said, I don't see any of the men. I said, where the guys at? She said, oh, they all went to the bathroom, which I thought was kind of amusing because usually it's us going to the bathroom. So they had not come into the room yet. But for the ladies, don't be discouraged. Yes, we're there. And when you come to a Noble event, be it training or at a conference, our women are there. We're on parade. We're talking the talk, but we're doing the work. We are doing that work. And you can do that work. Noble is very inclusive. They want the women because they know it's going to get done. And don't forget that because we do get it done. So I've seen women continue to rise, and we will continue.
I wanted to add to that. We do have our current president, Chief Hall, and then at one time we had a trifecta. We had 3 women presidents. It was a special time. So I do want to say, even though we've had 8, at one time we had 3 back to back, which is just unprecedented.
Yes, that would be numbers 4, 5, and 6.
There you go.
Vera Bumpers, Linda Williams, C.J. Davis.
Exactly.
That was the trifecta.
Yes. So thank you for sharing that. For all of our young people in the audience, we want you to see, even though, again, it's reflective on our panel, our women leaders are always and have always been at the table at Noble. And I was reflecting in the coffee and conversation about some of the trailblazers that I ran into. And one woman, I still can't remember her name. I'll probably have to ask Dwayne and he'll help me out. But we was talking about, Maya Harrison, and we went through everybody but the person I was talking about. And it just started making me reflect on all the women who I probably stalked that I should apologize to at this point. But they were very, very open and welcoming to me. And still to this day, if I call them, they will answer. So we have a sisterhood and a brotherhood and a family here at Noble. So let me talk about our community and our partnerships now. Dr. Scott, again, having you reflect on some of the earlier years, what are some of the key accomplishments and legislative victories? I know Chief Golden mentioned some of them, but what kind of defined that first era? What are some of the things that we really put our footprint on?
Let me just try to set the stage of what the country was like in that first era. We had been through some race riots. We had been through the 60s riots where Detroit was almost destroyed, Washington, D.C., Cleveland, Ohio, Newark, New Jersey. And so you had, but when President Johnson formed this commission, a Kerner Commission, to study what precipitated these riots, and then what can we do to prevent them in the future. One of the underlying factors, and this was part of my dissertation, one of the underlying factors promoting the race riots of the 1960s was police brutality, police misconduct. And so when they studied in each city, they interviewed people about why were you out there rioting? And they talked about, often there was one precipitating factor. In Newark, there was a taxi cab driver. It was rumored that he had been killed by the police, but I think later we found out that he had not been killed, but he had been beaten by the police, and people felt like it wasn't right. And so even before that, you'd had the watch riots in Los Angeles. But you'd had these series of riots in cities during the summer where people just went out in the streets and started burning and looting, et cetera. And then it said because we did not have police officers that respect the community. So out of that came is that there's a need to have more Black people in law enforcement. And so that was a special programs were put together by the federal government to give cities incentives to recruit more Black police officers. Because one of the things at this conference they held, and the book of the presentations that was done at the 1976 conference out of which Noble developed, you can get it online. It's called, Black Crime, I think. I meant to bring a copy with me today, but I still have to give you one, Madam President. But one of the things they found that there were not many Black people working in police departments, and that there were Black people in police departments that were trying to make a difference, but often they felt discriminated against. They were not treated right. And so these were some of the things that Noble tried to work on as an early organization, is how do we tackle that, and how do we join with IACP? How do we join with the newly formed PERF in order to try to talk to the chiefs in other cities who are not Black and talk about what you can do together as an organization? And then you had CALEA, the law enforcement standards and transit organization that was formed to sort of set some standards at every city that the police officers should have a certain level of training in certain areas. And so this was some of the early work and how Noble became more visible, because we had started off, as I said, when I came there, Noble had a grant from the Justice Department looking at hate crimes. and the way police officers handle that. And so I had done a lot of research on that, and we published a study on that. And then we also designed training. And I remember FBI coming to the office to meet with me and said, "Why you want to meet with me?" He said, "We heard that you were one of the experts on police handling of hate crimes. And we need to put together, we've been asked to do some legislation with some Congress members on attacking hate crimes in this country." And so I helped them put together some of the foundation for the Hate Crime Statistics Act, which is still in effect today. I guess I'll stop there.
Okay, all right. She got a lot of stuff, y'all. But what she just said, I want us to again kind of just sit in that moment that she's talking about hate crimes legislation and it being passed, and we know, years later, additional hate crime legislation was passed, and we know today we're having these same conversations. But remember, a Noble member was at the forefront of starting that legislative act. And see, these are things, kernels of our history, and these collaborations that are not written in our history books. I know Stella has a history book for us, but there are books out there that mention these things. But I'm so proud to be up here to talk to these folks, because we need to have this stuff written down, because there's so many things that an hour is not going to allow us to even touch on, the things that Noble has been at the table. So with that, Chief Golden, I want to talk to you a little bit more about our more recent partnerships and some of the things that were key to our growth, like the COPS office, IACP. How are these collaborative efforts, really feeding Noble membership, and then how are you involved in those?
Sure. And again, I just want to remind us all that all the dots connect. Just as we go through this discussion and share some things with you, go back to the beginning. We always have to start there with those 60 persons who came from across the country and the issues, frankly, around which they had their first deliberations. Fairness in the administration of justice, police community relations. We've talked about hiring and promotion of Black police officers and ensuring that they're developed to the extent that they can advance through the ranks of law enforcement. And then also just kind of the unique challenges around those in law enforcement leadership who happen to be African American. That came up in the first session earlier this morning. It's like, what are some of the special challenges, if you will? And so with all of that in mind, to get to the question about our participation, Noble has always been an integral part and partner in efforts like the COPS Consortium back in the mid-90s. And now today, the Collaborative Reform Initiative Technical Assistance Center. Now that's a long term, but essentially what it means is that Noble is in the room. And there's a lot of talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm not going to try to be mean here or anything, but that term has been hijacked, because what it means is that you're in the room and making sure that folks are in the room. And that's what Noble's position has been throughout our 50-year history. So in those partnerships, the COPS Consortium, CRITAC, Collaborative Reform, it's about those very issues. Any of those things sound familiar today that we talked about that launched Noble? Fairness in the administration of justice, hiring of more minority officers, more inclusion, more diversity. All of those things are still very relevant and should resonate with all of us, even here in 2026. And so Noble, also I should point out, as you might have already gathered, we have a tremendous depth of intellectual capacity. It started back in 1976. Those folks didn't just make rank because they happened to be Black, or they came to that conference in 76 with law degrees, PhDs. They were research scientists. They weren't just summoned. You don't get summoned to Washington, D.C. for 3 days if you don't have something going for you. And so to that extent, even today, we have subject matter experts throughout our organization all across the country in many disciplines and law enforcement practices, the use of deadly force, de-escalation, community engagement, all of those kinds of issues we get our arms around through these collaborative initiatives. And we are there at the table making sure that our voice is heard, but even beyond that, tapping into that intellectual capacity around training, technical assistance, and all the kinds of initiatives that law enforcement needs today in order to be effective in the work that we have to do. So it started with cops, and obviously other organizations like PERF, IACP, and other well-known and respected organizations are part of these collaborative efforts. And I'm happy to say that I still have the opportunity to represent Noble in many of those things.
Thank you so much. Dr. Glover, Reese, you work with the kids. Oh, we got a question. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Sorry. Apologize. That is a division of the Department of Justice. COPS stands for Community-Oriented Policing Services. And it was rolled out in the early 90s under President Bill Clinton at the time. And one of his major initiatives was to put 100,000 more police officers on the street in the early 90s. And as a result of that, the COPS office was created and still continues today. And thank you, Madam President. And Noble is, again, a key partner in that process.
All right, Dr. Reese, we got the kids in the house, we got the young people, we got the students, and you've worked with youth for a while.
Yes.
Can you talk about this, using this word, birthing
Yes.
our original concept of the Noble Youth Program and what that was and what it is today?
Yes. So 25 years ago, I'm serving as the national parliamentarian. I've been the parliamentarian for 4 years on the board of Noble. So remember what I was talking about, service. It's not just being a member, but serving on the board, giving up your time, really being intentional about making the organization be better. So 25 years ago, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary at the Marriott Wardman Park. And it has that hotel is no longer there, I don't think. But I'm on the second level looking down into the lobby of the hotel. I saw kids running around. They're just running around. So, sidebar, Noble would have young people come, and it was just kind of almost like a babysitting thing. They would go this place and that place. But the kids were running around in the lobby, and I'm standing there, and I'm looking at them. I'm like, these kids need to be in workshop like their parents. Their parents are going to workshop. They need to be in workshop. They can play at home. That's exactly how the concept of Noble Youth came to me, and I've been running with it ever since. And so what we do every year at the conferences, we have a youth leadership conference. Now, Noble initially started out it was Noble Kids. It was an initiative. So it wasn't, we didn't know how long it was going to stay. We didn't know how long we were going to continue to have the support to keep it going. But it kept going, and it transitioned from Noble Kids to Noble Youth, where Noble, we have a program, a leadership conference. It's focused on leadership. It is building your foundation for success. We're giving you the tools that we know that you're going to need in order to make better decisions, to go higher, to prepare yourselves for that next step. The kind of things that we're talking about being a better community activist. We talk about resume building. We talk about thinking about what career you want. We talk about financial management. We talk about etiquette. We talk about all those things that we know that you're going to need. And we also have the opportunity to talk about things that you want to talk about, because we don't work in a vacuum. We have a Noble Youth Advisory Group that we tap into, and we make sure that they're able to pick out things that they want, what they want to talk about, and how they want to go forward. So we're very, very intentional about making sure that young people, 14 to 18, like some of you in this room, and so another sidebar, it would be awesome, so awesome, if you could meet us in Dallas, Texas,
At our
July
50th
24th
anniversary.
through the 28th. And it's going to be big. We already going to Dallas Cowboy Stadium. We already got that on lock. We already going there.
She's just telling stuff.
So let me just say this. This conference is like no other conference. It's very high level, and we're intentional about making it like that. It is a free conference.
The youth part? Okay, I just want to clarify.
The youth, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford.
I was like, hold up. I've been paying.
I'm sorry, Mr. Crawford. The Youth Leadership Conference is free. All you have to do is get there, take care of your hotel, but the conference is free. The reason why it's free is because y'all don't have any money. Y'all not working, so how you gonna pay for something like this? But we make it, you get a t-shirt every day, you get a conference bag, you get whatever the adults get, but better. Yeah, I said it.
They do have better music.
Better music, better, the bags. Look, let me just tell you, every year the adults will come in to the kids' space. Can we get a bag? Can I? And I'm like, no, it's for the kids. It's for the youth. So Noble is doing some incredible things. We have our chapters across the country that have youth programs, consistent youth programs, mentoring programs. They're raising funds for scholarship. We are really, throughout the country, we're really making an impact on young people. And we're very focused about it. And so I'm happy to continue to serve as the National Youth Chair. I'm just grateful to the organization for its support and how the members show up, because see, we have to raise the money to make sure that young people can participate in the conference. And so over the years, we've had, early on, we might have 100 or maybe 30 kids, and we've had close to 600 kids in years gone by. So we look forward to at least having 200 to 250 young people in Dallas. So I invite you, try and get there. Try and get there and take care of you have your chaperones. Make sure you bring chaperones, but think about it. You have some time to raise your money and get to Dallas and spend some time with us.
I will say, I have asked Rhonda on many occasions, can I speak at her conference? Just because I wanted to get in, because she will keep you out. You're not part of the youth conference. So I'm like, I'll talk. I will earn my keep. So it is, and I will say that again, for the real OGs in the house and for the people who watch reruns, she did have all of the staff, the stars from Good Times one year in New York. So it was super cool. So I was like, she brings some of the best speakers. I don't know how the kids knew who the Good Times folks was, but I knew who the folks from Good Times was.
We don't push our young people into law enforcement. We don't do that. We just show up decent and in order. So you have active law enforcement and retired law enforcement working with the youth program. We have young people that have aged out of the program, They've gone to school. They are lawyers. We have doctors. We have filmmakers. We have real estate agents. We have nonprofit executive directors that have gone through Noble Youth. Let me just tell you just a real quick story. We had an SAT prep course. Noble sponsored an SAT prep course on Capitol Hill. Noble did this on Capitol Hill. We got a lot of nerve. We on Capitol Hill. It was free. We connected with those young people years later. One of the young ladies said, and it gives me chills when I think about it, had it not been for Noble, I would not have gone to Columbia University. Had it not been for Noble. So I shared that with you so you get a clear vision of the impact of Noble with youth. Noble connecting with young people across the country. And we are making it happen. And I just get real excited to be connected. I'm excited that the program has grown by leaps and bounds. The committee is amazing, and we just look forward to Dallas, and hopefully some of you will be able to be there with us.
Thank you. I'm going to give Ms. Stella one question, and I'm going to ask my panel one wrap-up question. So, Ms. Stella, how is the expansion of Noble's brand in the community helping to strengthen our bond between law enforcement and our community?
Noble's brand is one of our big key programs that we have. It started out many years ago as the Law in You. Today it is the Law in Your Community. That is a big brand for us. We go into the community and actually meet young people and their parents, and they get to interact with law enforcement and see just what it is that we do. So when they see the police, it's not always a bad thing. It can be a good thing, but it's also a teaching program. It teaches them how to interact with the police, how to get through that next step and get home safely. That has been one of our signature brands, and it continues today, and it's a well done program. And we will present it to anyone. Let us know where you need us to go. Boys and girls clubs, fraternities, sororities. We are there to present that information for you.
Thank you. And it's free.
Is free.
That is free. That is free.
Say free. Yeah.
And it is all across the country. So as we go into our last question, I want to ask everyone on the panel to respond however they would like to. But thinking about Noble, and I'm going to start with you, Dr. Scott, and just go down the line. Professional development and mentoring has been something that everybody up here is mentioned. You serving as a mentor and the aspirational aspect of being part of the Noble family. How does this serve all of our membership in your perspective? Are you live? Give it to us, James. You can start.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, you threw me a curve there.
Sorry,
anyway,
okay. I'm wrapping it up. I was sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So the question is about professional development.
Yes, mentoring and professional development. Yes.
A couple of quick things. So, Dr. Scott reminded me on the previous question, I failed to mention about Noble really being the author or the founder or the father, if you will, of community-oriented policing. And we talked about the COPS office and some of those collaborative things, but it's important to remember that Noble rolled out community-oriented policing as part and parcel of our initial set of issues. And community policing has taken off and is still very much in vogue today. So I wanted to get that point across. And the link to the question about professional development is that in order to have an effective community-oriented policing philosophy, strategy, however you want to term it, which is essentially to say that we're empowering citizens. The community policing is more than just a buzz term. It's really about empowerment. So if you're going to be an effective law enforcement leader, a chief, a director, or a CEO of some type under this overarching policing strategy, then you have to understand that you need professional development that focuses on how do we empower our staff? How do we empower the people who work for us? How do we empower citizens in terms of bringing them to the table? Remember, I spoke earlier about being in the room. And so part of that diversity, equity, and inclusion in terms of the work that we do is to make sure that we're empowering citizens to sit alongside us, just like we are up here, and partner with them legitimately, building that trust and saying to them that you have a significant role in helping us shape policies, procedures, practices around all of these poignant matters that we talked about, de-escalation, use of force, and those kinds of things. And so the whole point about professional development is that Noble has been doing this for really from the beginning, informally and formally. We have a CEO mentoring program that I'm very happy to say that I've had a role in it. And we have graduated 70% of our folks over the last 17 or 18 years. 70% have gone on to become chief executive officers with the understanding, again, the dots connect, right? With the understanding that we need to have more community-oriented thinking leaders, and we believe in law enforcement, and we believe that Noble plays a very significant role in making that happen. So training, professional development, empowering citizens, empowering your staff, and the people around you, that is the essence of community-oriented policing as far as I'm concerned. And Noble is making sure that we prepare people, like the young folks sitting in here. And I hope that you do get to Dallas, because an hour doesn't do it justice. But we'll get to talk a lot more about these things. So I hope in some way I answered your question.
You did. Dr. Scott, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to, I guess, use myself as an example. I came to Noble as a new PhD young woman, and it was a bunch of old men in the organization. And so, I wasn't that interested in the organization initially because I didn't see career advancement there for me. I had never been a police officer. But many of these guys picked me as a mentee. Chief Bracy, you might have heard of him, you might hear about him from New York. And so when I was considering applying for the job, somebody said to me, it's a bunch of old men that's going to make the decision of who's going to get the job, so you may not get it. But I came in with the credentials, I got the job. And so when Noble needed an executive director, I was not going to apply for the job because I had not been a cop. I didn't think I would be selected. Mr. Bracy, Chief Bracy, again, he was the chair of the selection. He was the chair of the recruitment committee. And he kept asking me if I were going to apply. And Marty Tapscott, they tried to get me to apply. And I said, no. And so the last day of the application, Chief Bracy called me. And he said, I don't see your application. And I said, well, I won't get that job. He said, why? I said, one, I'm a PhD. Y'all don't like PhDs. Two, I'm a woman. Y'all don't like women in positions. He said, well, let me tell you this. No, you won't get the job. He said, because you're not applying for it. And so I ended up applying for the job. There was one woman on the search committee. She lived in LA. I can't pull up her name right now. But she was the only woman on the committee. She had worked and taken the red eye from LA because she wanted a woman in the room when they start making the decisions about who would be the next executive director. And so, both sides, I've been mentored both by men and women in Noble. I just wanted to use that example of two people, both a woman and a man, who had mentored me in Noble.
So Stella, I'm gonna ask you one final question about the aspiration for the next generation. Since we're here and we've invited all these youth here, how do we ensure that our aspiration for leadership that we've all touched on, and Rhonda talked about it from the youth summit that we have and the youth conference, how do we continue to have that be a core part of our brand for our next generation?
Mentoring. We have to mentor. We have to mentor our young people, and sometimes that gets to be a chore, but they're looking to us to lead them. And mentoring is so important for Noble. Bottom line is, Lee Brown said, he did a speech a long time ago, doing good for nothing. And I was like, what the heck? Doing good for nothing. And that's what we have to do, because part of our core of Noble is service. Mentoring, when it comes to our young people, and especially want to see women, they want to see you, what you're doing. They want to follow you. Noble does a lot of mentoring, and a lot of different chapters do it, and people don't even know that they're mentoring. They mentored a group of young people who went to the conference who was studying criminal justice. So these were college students. Members in the organization paid for them to go. A lot of people didn't know that. They paid their hotel, they paid their expenses, and then they got there. You know what they wanted to do? They wanted to go help the national office out. So they wanted to learn what was going on there. Mentoring. There's one young lady at my house right now that we've mentored from the Washington Metro chapter, and she is in the process of trying to complete Capitol Police. And that's Michaela.
All right.
And she's doing well. But we're mentoring. And she's only at my house because she lives way up in Baltimore, close to Pikesville. And I told her, I'm telling you right now, baby girl, you late. You bounced. I said, so they're not going to want to hear about how far you have to travel. I said, so you better stay close. And I think she's so happy because every morning they've had to be there at 4:30. She has not had one morning where it's later. But the mentoring, she just always says, thank you so much. But many of our chapters mentoring. Please continue to mentor, to support the young people. A lot of them don't have the resources that we have, but when they see you doing it, then it really inspires them to do it. And that is one thing that Noble, we have to continue to mentor. We have to give back. If we are not going to look out for our youth, who do we expect to do it?
Thank you.
We have to.
I want to thank all of my panelists for sharing just a glimpse into our history. Again, we could have a whole conference on this, but thank you for sharing your journey with Noble, and thank you for sharing your journey with everyone else.
Please subscribe to Precinct 444 on your favorite podcasting platform to stay connected and to receive our latest content as soon as it drops. We would love to hear from you. Send in your questions, comments, and feedback to precinct444@nleomf.org. You can help us make our content even better. The National Law Enforcement Museum is located at 444 East Street Northwest in Washington, D.C., and is dedicated to telling the story of American law enforcement. We expand and enrich the relationship between law enforcement and the community through educational journeys, immersive exhibitions, and insightful programs. Find us online at lawenforcementmuseum.org and stay tuned for more podcast content from Precinct 444. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you at the precinct.